Good morning, friends. We have been discussing how different forms of worship, different traditions of worship, they were all accepted and they were all brought under the umbrella of the Upanishads. I was quoting the example of what Sri Shankaracharya did. Sri Shankaracharya, a great saint who belonged to the 7th century, he was called Shanmata Sthapakacharya, that is, somebody who established 6 religions. So it is something which on the face of it, which looks rather preposterous. Somebody who is establishing about 6 religions. But there was a situation where this philosopher, he went around the country, he saw all the systems which were available, and then he removed, or rather he denounced certain un-Vedic or non-Vedic practices, certain crude practices like worshipping, say, the dead bodies, sitting over the dead bodies, sitting over the skulls and doing some pujas, etc. All those systems he denounced, and then they said they are not in accordance with this Upanishadic teaching. And then he brought these 6 main systems under this Upanishadic, this umbrella, and then he said, you worship any deity, it is one and the same. If you are a worshipper of Vishnu, you keep Vishnu in the center, keep all other people around that Vishnu. If you are a worshipper of Shiva, keep Shiva in the center and then keep others all around. So like that, he introduced a system called Panchayatana, that is keeping, say, 5 deities. So he introduced a system like that. So that is why if you go to a temple in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu, you find some old temples. Even in Andhra Pradesh also, if you find old temples, not the new temples you find something like a gallery. There may not be any system. They may not be following any, they may or may not be following any Agama Shastra. But then if you go to the old temples, you find that there is a deity, and in the 4 corners there will be 4 other deities. So you are not denouncing anybody. You are only showing somebody your own tradition as the primary tradition, and all other things you are giving some respect. You are not. It is not as though, in fact, you go around and then you also salute to all the people. So that is what is the say harmonious integration which has been brought about by Shankaracharya. So that is what we saw. Then we can also see some other historical reasons in addition to, say, what we saw hitherto is philosophical reasons. That is what the Vedas say or what the Upanishads say. Upanishads say that the supreme reality is something of the nature of this consciousness only, existence, consciousness and infinitude. In that consciousness, you are visualizing something. In that level of plane of Maya, in that plane of Prakriti, you are visualizing. And whatever you are visualizing as that cosmic intellect, and that cosmic intellect is the only thing in which what all you can imagine, a human being can imagine. So that is why we have no dispute with anybody. You have no dispute with any tribal who is worshipping, who is having any odd form of worship. We don't denounce him. We say, okay, let him do. He will also mature. He will also grow. He will also get result from that. He will also get the desired result from that. I quoted from Gita, what Gita says. That is in the 31st slide. If you just go back to 31st slide, Gita says this continued. Those who worship any other deities with devotion do worship me only, the supreme reality, though in an unconventional manner, or rather unprescribed manner, avidhi purvakam. So that is what Krishna says. That is in the 9th chapter of Gita. So when that is so, philosophically there is no objection to any type of worship. So that is such a broad philosophy which has guided our different systems of worship which exist in India. There are some historical reasons also. If you come to the next slide, that is 33, we see that this is a repetition, that is Indian sages did a peaceful and harmonious integration of different traditions. And this is a historical thing which we can note. If you see world history, suppose you see world history, take any book on world history, and there you will see how when, say, Christianity came up, and when King Constantine took Christianity, he took, he started following Christianity, then he destroyed the existing religion which was there in Rome at that time. The existing religion was called Mitraism. Mitra means the sun god. The same Sanskrit word Mitra also means sun. The Roman word Mitra also is sun. Mitraism is sun worship. So that religion which existed, so all other, say, accompanying deities and all the temples associated with that Mitraism, they were all destroyed. The same thing happened in Europe. For example, in Britain, there was a system called, there was a religion called Druidism, Druids. So that was again a very simple religion, basically Sattvika type of people doing meditations. So things like that. So that was also eradicated. And the same thing applies to the Arabian world. When that new religion came, all the existing systems were destroyed. But in India, that sort of destruction did not take place. So this is one important historical reason we can see. We will note it only when you read world history. There is another thing which also we have to see. In India, there was a tradition of debate and discussion. Suppose I follow Vishnu, you follow Shiva, or I follow a non-dualist approach or non-dualist interpretation of Upanishads. You follow the dualist interpretation of Upanishads. So they used to sit together, they used to argue. They used to sit together and argue as to what exactly this line means. For example, there is some, line from the Upanishad. So a non-dualist interprets in a particular way, the dualist interprets in some other way. But then these people, though they argued, intellectually there were big intellectual battles, but there were no physical battles. So that is one point which we have to see in India. There were intellectual battles, there were intellectual disputes and all. And if you read history, you will find that history, and not only history, literature of the time. For example, there is literature of 7th century, 8th century relating to King Harsha. King Harsha, he was a very well-known king of 7th century. If you read, the writings of the foreign travelers who came to India at that time, or if you read the accounts of the poets, the writers who wrote the history of Harsha, there is a book called Harsha Charita. There is a book called Harsha Charita written by one person called Bana Bhatt. He was not a historian, he was a court poet, he was not a historian. But then he has given some description about what happened and in this Harshavardhana's life. And then he describes all these Buddhist viharas, where all these Buddhists, they used to congregate it. Buddhist vihara was something like a university. In fact, the Hindus did not have such universities. The Buddhists had such universities because their practice was all the scholars, they used to sit, and then they built up huge libraries, which were again destroyed when the people came from outside. That is how Buddhism was destroyed in India. So the system of argument. So there in that Harsha Charita, that writer, he gives a description of how people of different schools of philosophy, somebody is studying Tarka, somebody studying Mimamsa, somebody studying Vedanta, somebody studying Buddhism, someone studying Jainism, all these people, they were sitting and then they were, learning their system of philosophy. So that is how there was an existence, there was a harmonious existence, there was a system of debate and a discussion. This intellectual climate is something which we should not forget, because this Nalanda University was one very famous university which was destroyed in that Muslim conquest. And then Nalanda University again is now being rebuilt. About 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the government of India, they took a decision to revive that Nalanda University. So that exercise is going on. So like that tradition of free speech was very much there in India. In fact, if you look at it, we don't have free speech now. Other people, they keep denouncing our religion, but we don't denounce others. So that is what is the picture. So another reason is Hinduism had no rigid organizational structure. For example, if you see Christianity, there is an organizational structure starting from Rome, starting from the Pope, the mightiest person, from that Pope to the smallest person, a small parish, some small pastor in a village. There is an organizational network. For every country, there is a country head, there is a state head, there is a district, a diocese head, and right down to a small parish, there is a network. And we don't have any such thing, because ours is not such an organized religion. We have harmonized various systems. The Upanishadic philosophy has harmonized various systems, and then brought them all together. There is no organizational network. It is not something like a multinational company which is functioning. So this is the difference between India, the Hinduism and the Western religions. So this is what we have to see, and say these are the historical reasons in addition to the philosophical reasons which we heard which I was discussing in the earlier session. So now we will go to another rather debated issue. The next slide is about idols. Indians are all idol worshippers, they say. And our children also, they feel bad that we are all idol worshippers. What is the meaning of this idol? What is the meaning of what is this idol? What is the reality about this idol worship? So if you see how this say idol worship has come into picture, I was telling about the Vedas, how they are structured. Vedas, they tell about rituals. For the sake of ordinary man, say an ordinary man is full of desires. He wants some, prosperity, he wants children, he wants this type of wealth, he wants another type of wealth, and then he wants to go to heaven after the completion of his life. So he has so many desires. For all those desire-seeking people, the Vedas say, okay, you follow this ritual, follow this ritual, follow this ritual. Because Vedas, if they don't prescribe anything, there will be no orderliness in society. So that is why they said they prescribed certain compulsory things. A compulsory thing for self-purification. For example, Sandhya Vandanam, Pancha Mahayajna. I was talking about these 5 types of yajna, that is 5 types of charitable activities which a human being is expected to do. So this is for self-purification. In addition to self-purification, that is purification of mind, a man is also having some sort of interest, some sort of desires and all that. For all those desires, it also allows, it also permits some other types of activities. So they are called rituals. And Vedas cannot end with that. Vedas should also try to bring that man from that level of ritual to the level of philosophy slowly. So in between there is another level called Upasana. There is one called Karma Kanda. Karma is activity or ritual. Upasana Kanda is the level of that worship. Upasana is visualizing a particular deity and then trying to emulate that deity. Trying to emulate the deity and then trying to become that deity. That is what is the essence of Upasana. The essence of Upasana is, maybe there are 2 levels. One is to request something from the deity, and the other thing is to become that deity itself. So that sort of upasana was there. So that is why we find in India there are so many types of upasakas. Somebody doing Ganesha upasana, somebody is doing some other Lalita upasana, someone is doing some Saraswati, Ganesha, Lalita. All these upasanas are there. So different people, different upasanas, they existed. So this is the level where, for the sake of, from the level of ritual, you are coming to the level of understanding. Ritual is mechanical. Ritual is more mechanical. It involves procuring so many items for offering in that fire. There is a fireplace, and then you have to offer so many things, and then you have to give so many, do some charitable activities, etc. There is more physical activity in ritual. In this upasana, there is a mental activity. Upasana is more a mental activity. It is meant for concentrating the mind. Upasana is meant for concentration of mind. Upasana in English we can call it meditation. Meditation is also needed because this karma purifies a person to some extent. This daily karma or something which is prescribed to a person, it purifies to a particular extent. And not only purity, some sort of clarity of mind also is required. So in Vedanta they use 2 words. One is Nirmalatvam, that is purity of mind. The other is Nishchalatvam, that is concentration. So a person's, say, inner self, it gets purified by doing some good actions which help the society. So that is the purity. And then stillness has to be concentrated, has to be continuously cultivated. It is something like mind is compared to a small lake, let us say. Suppose you take a lake. In that lake, unless the water is very pure, unless the water is clean, it cannot reflect the sun or moon, whatever it is, it cannot reflect the neighboring trees around it. The water has to be clean. It should not only be clean, but it should also be still. So that cleanness and stillness Both are required, both are needed. So that stillness of mind is what is aimed at in meditation. So this is the second level, and this is what we also call bhakti. Bhakti or devotion or meditation or worship. So for this, what is the initial starting point for this? So Vedas, they give some mantra, say, let us say. Vedas, they give some Surya mantra, or some other mantra for Agni, or some other mantra for Vishnu, some other mantra for Shiva, some other mantra for Gayatri. Suppose I am doing some Gayatri Upasana. The most popular Upasana is Gayatri Upasana, let us say. Every person is supposed to do Gayatri Upasana, every human being, because Gayatri Upasana is something which deals with knowledge. It doesn't deal with a particular deity, it deals with the supreme reality. It says that your real self is that supreme reality, and you are doing meditation on that particular point. So that is why this Gayatri Upasana, suppose. And then this mantra becomes the focal point for this Upasana. And slowly, somebody writes that same mantra in the form of some sort of diagram. So that mantra has some meaning. The same meaning he denotes by putting some ABC, etc. Suppose a mathematical equation, you have some mathematical formula. So like we use some symbols in mathematics, you use some small letters to denote Prithvi, to denote Akasha, to denote this, that, etc., etc. And then you prepare a small diagram. And those diagrams usually they used to write on some copper plates, because in those days paper was not there. So they used to write on some gold plate or a copper plate, and then they used to draw a diagram. So that was called yantra. So this mantra becomes yantra. This earlier mantra, which was in a verbal form, it is transformed into a diagram. It becomes a diagram. So it becomes a yantra. And then sometime later, a small picture, the same yantra, you visualize that thing as a deity. You visualize that thing in the human form, because a human being has a tendency to visualize everything in a human form. So that is anthropomorphic, say, thinking. So that sort of anthropomorphic approach. So you visualize a small deity, and then you say, for example, Brahma, the god Brahma, not Supreme Brahman. Suppose there is a god Brahma. So he is the person who has given the 4 Vedas. So you say that visualize Brahma as a person with 4 heads representing 4 Vedas. So that is a particular small symbol. Or some other deity. Some other deity you visualize with some 5 heads. It is not that it is some monstrous say, being which is having some 4 heads or 5 heads. It is just a visualization. So this sort of visualization and depicting in the form of a human being, so that also started. And gradually, once that starts, naturally one sculptor comes and then prepares a beautiful sculpture. Some other sculptor comes and then prepares a more beautiful sculpture. So that is how the slowly, bigger and bigger say idols have come into existence. That was called a vigraha. Idol is called vigraha. If you see the etymological meaning of that word vigraha, it again is a very interesting thing. Visheshena gruhyate anena. Visheshena gruhyate anena iti vigraha. So that is the Vishesh, if you are noting down, you can note down. Visheshena gruhyate. Gruhyate means it is taken, it is absorbed, it is assimilated. Visheshena gruhyate anena iti vigraha. That is, this is a medium through which you are able to capture the essence of that deity. This is some sort of, say tool. This is sort of not exactly a medium. This is some sort of aid, let us say, aid. This is some sort of aid. In order to capture the essence, in order to capture the understanding, you can concentrate more on that the form of the deity with the help of this diagram, or with the help of this picture. So that is how a mantra which was in a verbal form, it became a yantra, diagrammatic form. That yantra became a small idol. And this you see in Buddhism also. In this Buddhist traditions also, there is a lot of tantra. There is a lot of yantra and tantra. Tantra again is another extension of that yantra. So all these systems were there in Buddhism, Jainism, in all Indian or in all Oriental, let us say, in all Oriental systems. This you find. So Buddhists, they were the people who produced the largest statues or largest idols. Which are the largest idols, if you can recall? Recently, the Taliban people, they destroyed the Bamiyan statues in Afghanistan. in Afghanistan. In fact, Buddha in Arab, he was called Buddha. Buddha actually means Buddha. So when Islam says Butparasti means idol worship. Butparasti is hated in Islam. So when they said Buddha, they were referring to Buddha because the whole of Afghanistan, there were only Buddha statues, because the entire Afghanistan was once a Buddhist nation. Now which is producing all these Taliban people, their forefathers were Buddhist monks who were doing simple prayers, very, very peaceful people, very absolutely peace-loving people, not like the terrorist network now. So anyway, so this is what is Buddhism, this is what is that idol. So this is how this idol has grown, because meditation was the focal point, and meditation on a mantra, meditation on a concept, because as a meditation as a spiritual exercise means for some internal transformation. Spiritual exercise means for an internal transformation, becoming a better human being, not say desiring something. So this sort of thing was the cause for these idols. So we may come to the next slide, and this is something which the Upanishadic sages, they knew. It is not as though they were all blind idol worshippers. You are not worshipping the stone there, you are not worshipping the wooden carving there, you are not worshipping any marble form there. You are worshipping the concept, you are worshipping that idea which has been depicted first of all in a pictorial way, then secondly in the form of a three-dimensional manner. So if you see the Upanishad, what this Upanishad says, this is the Brahman, the supreme reality, is of the nature of intelligence and hence non-dual. It has no parts in it. Parts means there is no, you can't divide it. This is some homogeneous consciousness, that's all. It can't be divided. And visualizing a shape in it is merely to facilitate meditation. So that is what that Upanishad says. That mantra is Chinmayasya Advitiyasya Nishkalasya Asharirinaha Upasakanam Karyartham Brahmano Rupakalpana. So that is how that mantra goes. Chinmayasya Advitiyasya Nishkalasya Asharirinaha Upasakanam Karyartham Brahmano Rupakalpana. Brahmano Rupakalpana means Rupa Kalpana, Rupasya Kalpana, that is visualizing a Rupa, visualizing a form for that Brahma is Upasakanam Karyartham, in order to facilitate these Upasakas, those who are doing this Upasana. So that is what Upanishad says. So which means that it is not some foolish, say going and worshipping a rock there, foolishly going and breaking a coconut to that rock. It is, you are using that thing as a facility to think on a particular concept. So that is the basic idea in that Vigraha. Then you come to the, is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the say idea why we find these idols, we find huge temples, and this temple architecture again is its own, is a very great subject itself. In fact, if you are interested in the temple architecture, if you just do some Google search also, you will get a lot of material about temple architecture, what various symbols mean, because everything there is a symbolic depiction which you find in the temple architecture. So that is again a very interesting subject. So then you come to these different gods. So what is the idea of these different gods? Well, say just mention that also, because these mantra transforming into yantra transforming into an idol, and all these things are there. And then different types of God. There is one Agni, there is one Vayu, there is one Indra, there is one say later gods like Anjaneya, there is somebody like Rama, somebody like Krishna. Then how to classify, how to understand, how to figure out, how to say pigeonhole them. Pigeonhole means how to put them in their proper place. So if you see, there are some deities, you may come to the next slide, 36. There are some deities who are mentioned in the Vedas. Or first of all, we may know the meaning of this deity. What is the meaning of this Deva? Deva is the same root as the Sanskrit, the Latin diva. The modern English word diva is also there. Diva means bright. Div. Divu has a meaning which in Sanskrit, which means brilliant, bright, something which is which gives light, which gives brilliance. Light also means intelligence. Light, metaphorically, it means intelligence. Divu dyotanarthakam. Dyotanarthe. Dyotana means shining, brilliant. That which shines, that is brilliant. Suppose somebody say this boy is brilliant. Somebody is he is shining. So he is shining in all subjects. So which means he is a brilliant person in all subjects. So which means that brilliance is something but it's related to knowledge. And we know that how the Upanishads have talked about the mind and the sense organs. All the sense organs are corresponding to the 5 elements in the nature. Prithvi, Apas, Teja, this fire element, fire, earth, water, etc. Our 5 senses, they correspond to that. That is, each sense is derived from the sattvika component of that particular element. And mind is derived from the sattvika component of all the 5 elements put together. So that is how there is a relationship, there is an organic relationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm. So that is what we saw. So when that is so, and whatever, if I say that my sense, through my sense organ, I am perceiving, I am able to get some intelligence, then what about the macroorganism? That also you should say that is also something which is endowed with some intelligence. So that intelligence is called Deva. That intelligence, suppose water, Varuna. That Varuna, Deva you say. This Agni relates to sight. So this Agni that relates to sight means Agni Deva you say. Agni Deva. Or Surya. Surya is something related to again eyes. So that is again related to, that is again called a Deva. So all these things which we found in the nature, which are responsible or which are connected with the say intelligence gathering mechanism in our body. Intelligence gathering mechanism is the senses and the mind. So this is the mechanism. So all these external things which are connected with this intelligence mechanism in our body, they are also called Devas. And one meaning of Devas is Indriyas also. If you see in the Upanishads, sometimes the word Deva also refers to these 5 sense organs. So that is what we have to see. So Deva is not used in a loose sense that, oh, Indians are worshipping so many gods. So it is not like that. There is a purpose. So for all this, we have to know what all the parents are needed to know is that they have to read Gita at least. Unless we read Gita, unless we read Bhagavad Gita, we cannot know the fundamentals of Hinduism. You may read Ramayana, you may read Mahabharata, you may read some other things, some other Purana, etc. All those things are okay. They are all good. They will tell you what is good conduct. They will tell you what is dharma. But fundamentals of philosophy, fundamentals of our doctrine, they can be known only when you read Gita or a few Upanishads along with the Bhashyam. You have to listen to a teacher, in fact. In fact, if you read Gita by yourself, you may not make out because Gita is a complex book. Gita is a complex book. I am going to say why it is complex. So that is how we see that in the Vedas, they mention these gods like Indra, Varuna, Vayu, Agni, etc., etc. So these are all the various cosmic functions which are treated as divine because our sense organs and mind, they correspond to these things. So if you see come to the next slide, then there are other types of gods. What is this? Vishnu, Shiva, etc. Vishnu, Shiva, etc. There again, you see, there are different traditions. I was telling you, India being a huge subcontinent. India in those days it was called Bharata Varsha, Bharata Khanda. This Bharata Khanda, this subcontinent called Bharata Khanda, which extended right up to Afghanistan. So there were so many traditions. So all those traditions which have been harmonized. So that type of gods are also there. Vishnu, Shiva, and they are again related to the cosmic functions. Vishnu is related to the cosmic function of maintaining this universe. Brahma, there is a person called Brahma, which is related to the cosmic function called creation. There is a creation, there is a sustenance, and then there is a dissolution of this creation. Dissolution means again resolving back to Prakriti and then again recreating. So creation, maintenance or sustenance, and then again resolving. So that resolving thing is Shiva. So like that, they were all brought into this structure of this philosophy. Then there are other people like Rama, Krishna, etc., etc. So these are the things which are called avatars. Avatara means for some specific purpose, there is a small, say, cosmic power, some small portion of that cosmic power manifests on this earth in some human form. So that is called avatara. Avatara literally means descending. Avatarati means descending. He descends. Avatara means something which is descended, which has descended. So that descent, how does it, why does it take place? There is also a formula or something which has been explained in Gita. Gita says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham. That is in the 4th chapter of Gita. It says, that is, whenever there is ascendance of or upsurge or ascendance of unrighteous elements, and then whenever righteousness is in danger, dharma, righteousness or good are in danger. In other words, in more simple words, whenever the wicked grow strong and whenever the good people become weak, then there is a divine mechanism which intervenes and then restores the good, suppresses the evil and then restores the good. So this sort of suppression of evil and the restoration of good is done at some cosmic, by some cosmic mechanism, and this cosmic mechanism is called avatar. So those people are called Rama, Krishna, etc. They are the avatars. So we have now seen 3 types. One is who are the deities which are mentioned in the Vedas. Others, of course, they are also mentioned in the Vedas. For example, Vishnu, Shiva, they are also mentioned in the Veda. Rudra, Rudradhyaya is there. Vishnu is mentioned in Narayana, Upanishad, etc. So they are also mentioned, they are brought into this Vedic structure. And Rama, Krishna, etc., they are not in Upanishads. So they are in this Itihasa. So they are called avatars. Avatara means are the various descendants, incarnation of God. So this is how we can very broadly we can see how this various deities have to be understood. For example, we say Hanuman. Hanuman is a character in Ramayana. So Hanuman we worship as God. Because he has certain, he is also an Amsha. He is also born out of the power of Shiva. So like that, we have integrated various people, we have harmonized various systems into this say structure. So that is why it requires some little bit of understanding. Otherwise, if we don't see this sort of have this understanding, it will look as though all these people are foolish, worshipping some idols and worshipping so many gods, etc. So in fact, there is also a criticism. Hindus worship 33 crore gods. It is not 33 crore gods. Of course, I am not going into details of all that. The parents who may be interested, they may read one Upanishad called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There is a chapter called Shakalya Brahmanam. So that Brahmanam will tell what is the meaning of this koti. 33 koti. Koti does not mean crore or 10 million. It means a particular category. What are those categories? What are those types of deities? It mentions there. So the parents, it is for the parents to go study further. So we will stop here and then we'll discuss what are the what is the classification of important texts in Hinduism. Thank you.